Your entire strategy fit on one single page. I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? I mean, how could you possibly boil down all that market analysis, all that planning, all those initiatives onto a single sheet of paper? Well, here's the thing. Being able to do just that might be the single most important factor in whether your strategy actually succeeds or fails. We've all been there. We've all seen that 100-page monster of a PowerPoint deck. You know the one. It's packed with projects that seem totally disconnected, and it just creates way more confusion than it does action. What we're aiming for is the complete opposite. A single, simple visual that gives everyone clarity. A map that becomes the common language for your entire company. And that is exactly where we're headed. And look, this isn't just some abstract theoretical problem. Let me tell you a quick story about a global financial services firm. They were 2 years into a huge transformation and had almost nothing to show for it. Why? Well, they were literally drowning in a 200-slide strategy deck. Projects were siloed, budgets were completely blown, and team morale, it was at rock bottom. That deck wasn't a guide, it was an anchor, pulling the whole company down. So what's really going on here? This brings us to the core issue, what we call the strategy execution gap. You can think of it as this giant, frustrating canyon between a brilliant plan on paper and what actually happens in the real world. This gap, this is the enemy of every great strategy. And it all boils down to one simple, powerful truth. Complexity is the enemy of execution. I mean, think about it. If your team can't look at a plan, understand it instantly, and get excited about it on a single page, it's just not going to happen. It's destined to end up on some digital shelf collecting digital dust. So the big question is, how do we bridge that gap? How do we fix this? Well, we do it with an incredibly powerful tool for visual management. So let's introduce the hero of our story, the transformation map. So what is this thing really? At its heart, the transformation map is a tool that takes that messy, tangled web of projects and initiatives and turns it into a simple, one-page visual roadmap. It clearly charts the journey from where you are right now to where you want to be, making sure every single action along the way is perfectly aligned. Okay, sounds great, right? But how do you actually build one? Well, it's surprisingly simple. It really just comes down to two key axes and the projects that bring it all to life. Let's dig in and break it down. First up, you've got your vertical axis. We call these your strategic streams. And this is super important. These are not your departments. These are the fundamental pillars of your business, the big picture things that absolutely must transform for you to succeed. Thinking this way forces you to be cross-functional right from the get-go. You'll notice you don't see things like marketing or IT here. Nope. Instead, you see these bigger, more strategic themes. Things like your core business processes, your entire product portfolio, or even the skills and capabilities of your people. Getting this distinction right is a total game changer. All right, that's the vertical axis. Now for the horizontal one. This is your transformation horizon. And really, that's just a fancy way of saying time. It lays out the journey step by step, showing how you move from the foundational work in, say, year 1, all the way to those big market-facing results in year 3. Okay, let's pause here because this is a point where a lot of people get tripped up. The streams, that vertical part, that's the what. What has to change? Your functional departments like IT or HR, that's just how your company is organized today. This map forces you to break out of those silos and think strategically across the entire business. So you put those two axes together, and what do you get? You get this, a simple grid. This is the skeleton of your entire strategy. Simple, right? Your strategic streams run up and down, and your timeline runs across. That's the whole framework. Now, this empty grid is where the magic really happens. This is where your strategy becomes real. Every single box you place on this map represents a specific prioritized initiative. You are literally plotting what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Okay, so having a map is one thing, but actually using it to navigate is something else entirely. A map you don't use is just a pretty picture, right? So let's talk about how to turn this into an actionable playbook for you and your executive team. It's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you just source all your potential initiatives. Get everything you could be doing out on the table. Second, and this is the most critical part, you get your leadership team in a room and you workshop the map together. This is where the debate happens, where the real alignment is forged. And finally, you use that visual to rationalize the plan and resource it properly. But a quick word of warning. There are a few common traps you can easily fall into. First, this is not a detailed Gantt chart. Its power is in its simplicity, so don't get bogged down in the weeds. Second, it's a living document, not a set-it-and-forget-it artifact. And most importantly, it absolutely must be owned by the executive team, not pawned off on the PMO. All right, so once you have a draft of your map, it's time for a quick gut check. You got to put it to the test with a few key questions. First up, does this map clearly show our critical path? Can we see the most important dependencies between our big projects at just a glance? Second, and this one's tough, are we using this map to have the hard conversations? Are we actually deprioritizing or even killing initiatives that don't fit on this single page? If it's not on the map, it's not happening. You have to be brave enough to stick to that. And finally, here it is, the ultimate test for clarity. Could a brand new employee, someone who just walked in the door yesterday, look at this one page and immediately understand our company's strategic direction? If the answer to that is yes, then wow, you've nailed it. That is what true alignment looks like. So theory is great, but what can you actually do with this right away? Let's get to your Monday morning action. It's this simple. In your very next executive meeting, I want you to take one of those dense, complex status reports right off the agenda. Instead, get up, grab a whiteboard marker, and sketch out a really simple version of this transformation map. Then just use that drawing to guide the entire strategic conversation. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you actually do this, when you put your entire strategy on one page, what is the one critical and maybe long overdue conversation that this map is finally going to force your leadership team to have?